the Great Smog of London, a deadly haze that changed history forever. In December of 1952, London, a city known for its iconic fogs and industrial prowess, found itself shrouded in an unprecedented environmental catastrophe. The Great Smog of London descended like a sinister veil, a silent and invisible threat that changed the city and its people forever. This disaster, while a tragic chapter in history, served as a pivotal moment that catalyzed environmental awareness and reforms across the globe. The post-war era of the early 1950s was marked by a sense of reconstruction and optimism. London, having endured the Blitz and the hardships of World War II, was a bustling hub of industry and progress. The city was alive with the sounds of construction and growth as new buildings rose to replace those destroyed by bombings. The air was filled with a sense of hope and determination as Londoners looked to the future with optimism. Coal was the primary source of energy, fueling homes, factories and power plants. This dependence on coal, however, came with a price, a constant release of soot and smoke into the atmosphere. Londoners were accustomed to a certain level of air pollution, often referred to as pea soup fog due to its thickness and colour. Yet the winter of 1952 would prove to be different. The convergence of cold weather, windless conditions and pollution created a perfect storm, one that would linger in the annals of history as a turning point for environmental reform. December the 5th began like any other cold winter day. Temperatures plummeted, and the people of London resorted to burning more coal than usual to keep warm. The city's skyline was a mix of architectural grandeur and industrial might, with factories belching smoke into the crisp winter air. Meanwhile, a high-pressure weather system settled over the region, trapping pollutants in the atmosphere. As the day progressed, a dense fog began to form, enveloping the city in a haze that would soon become impenetrable. The air was heavy and damp, clinging to everything it touched. What initially seemed like a typical London fog would soon reveal itself to be a deadly smog. The smog thickened overnight, and by the morning of December 6th, visibility had been reduced to just a few feet. Public transportation ground to a halt, and the streets were eerily silent, save for the muffled sounds of those brave enough to venture outside. Buses crawled at a snail's pace, guided by conductors walking ahead with lanterns. The thick blanket of smog seeped into buildings, making its presence felt indoors as well. Schools and offices remained open initially, but it soon became clear that the situation was far from ordinary. Hospitals began receiving patients with respiratory problems, their numbers growing alarmingly with each passing hour. The smog's effects were immediate and devastating. As the days dragged on, the smog's effects became more pronounced and severe. The hospitals were overwhelmed, with doctors and nurses working tirelessly to treat the influx of patients. Many of these patients were young children, the elderly, and those with pre-existing health conditions who were most vulnerable to the toxic air. The city's infrastructure, unprepared for such a disaster, struggled to cope with the demands placed upon it. Funeral services were overwhelmed, with undertakers struggling to keep pace with the rising death toll. Animals were not spared from the smog's wrath. Birds, disoriented by the haze, flew into buildings and dropped from the sky. Livestock, particularly cattle, suffered respiratory distress, leading to significant losses for farmers. Pet owners were advised to keep their animals indoors, but many pets succumbed to the toxic air. The smog penetrated every corner of the city, sparing no one from its deadly grip. The smog showed no signs of abating, and the toll on the city was staggering. The initial response from the government was muted, with many officials downplaying the severity of the situation. This delay in acknowledging the crisis only exacerbated the problem, leaving Londoners to fend for themselves in the toxic haze. Rumours and misinformation spread rapidly, adding to the sense of confusion and fear that gripped the city. People wore makeshift masks and scarves over their faces in a futile attempt to filter the air. Some resorted to stuffing wet cloths around windows and doors to keep the smog out of their homes. As the days passed, the city's rhythm slowed to a crawl. Events were cancelled and shops closed their doors. The once bustling city became a ghost town, with people choosing to stay indoors rather than brave the toxic air. Those who ventured out moved like spectres through the fog, their outlines barely discernible in the dim light. The streets, usually teeming with activity, were deserted and silent, save for the occasional cough or wheeze of a passerby. On December the 9th, the weather finally changed. A cold front swept through London, bringing with it winds that dispersed the smog. The city slowly began to return to normal, but the damage had been done. The official death toll was initially estimated at 4,000 people, but later studies suggested that the actual number was closer to 12,000, with countless more suffering from long-term health complications. The Great Smog of London was not merely an environmental disaster, but a humanitarian crisis that exposed the vulnerabilities of urban life in an industrial age. The aftermath of the Great Smog was marked by a reckoning. The disaster served as a wake-up call for London and the world, highlighting the need for environmental regulations and reforms. In the months and years that followed, scientists and policymakers worked diligently to understand the causes and consequences of the smog. Their research revealed the deadly cocktail of pollutants that had combined to create the toxic haze, drawing a direct link between coal burning and air quality. Public awareness and pressure mounted, leading to significant policy changes. In 1956, the British government passed the Clean Air Act, a landmark piece of legislation aimed at reducing air pollution. The Act introduced measures to phase out the burning of coal in urban areas, promote the use of cleaner fuels, and establish smoke control zones. This legislation set a precedent for environmental protection, inspiring similar efforts in other countries. The legacy of the Great Smog extends beyond legislative changes. It catalyzed a shift in public perception, fostering a growing awareness of environmental issues and the impact of human activity on the planet. This awareness laid the groundwork for future movements, from the anti-pollution campaigns of the 1960s and 1970s to the global climate change initiatives of the present day. The disaster also spurred advancements in scientific research, particularly in the fields of meteorology, environmental science, and public health. In the decades since the Great Smog, London has transformed itself into a city at the forefront of environmental innovation. Initiatives such as the Ultra-Low Emission Zone, ULEZ, and the expansion of green spaces reflect the city's commitment to sustainability and public health. The lessons learned from the 1952 disaster continue to resonate, reminding us of the delicate balance between progress and preservation. The Great Smog of London is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the power of collective action. It is a story of tragedy and triumph, of a city brought to its knees by an invisible enemy, only to rise stronger and more determined to protect its people and its future. As we navigate the challenges of the modern world, the lessons of the past serve as a guiding light, urging us to strive for a sustainable and equitable future for all. The smog left an indelible mark on the cultural fabric of London. It became a symbol of a bygone era, immortalised in literature, art and film. Writers and artists drew inspiration from the eerie, otherworldly atmosphere of the smog-shrouded city, weaving tales of mystery and intrigue set against the backdrop of a darkened London. Films such as The Day the Earth Caught Fire captured the apocalyptic mood of the event, while novels like Our Spoons Came from Woolworths offered poignant reflections on life in a smog-stricken city. Beyond its cultural impact, the Great Smog also spurred a wave of technological innovation. Engineers and scientists developed new methods to monitor air quality, leading to the creation of sophisticated systems that track pollution levels and forecast air quality. These advancements have enabled cities worldwide to better manage their environments and protect their citizens from the harmful effects of pollution. The story of the Great Smog of London serves as a cautionary tale and a beacon of hope. It reminds us of the consequences of unchecked industrialisation and the importance of proactive measures to safeguard our planet. Yet, it also demonstrates the power of human ingenuity and determination to overcome adversity and forge a better future. In today's world, as we face the pressing challenges of climate change and environmental degradation, the lessons of the Great Smog are more relevant than ever. It is a call to action, urging us to take responsibility for our actions and work together to create a sustainable world for generations to come. The smog may have dissipated, but its legacy endures, inspiring us to build a future where clean air and a healthy environment are not just aspirations but realities. As we look back on that fateful December in 1952, we see a city and its people tested by a formidable adversary. Yet we also see a story of resilience, innovation, and hope. a testament to the enduring spirit of London and a reminder of our capacity to learn from the past and shape a brighter future. The Great Smog of London stands as a powerful reminder of the delicate balance between progress and preservation, urging us to tread carefully and thoughtfully as we navigate the complexities of the modern world. The impact of the Great Smog extended beyond London and Britain, resonating across the world. In the United States, where industrial cities like Pittsburgh and Los Angeles face similar pollution challenges, the event underscored the urgent need for environmental policy reform. The Clean Air Act of 1963, the first federal legislation in the US aimed at air quality control, was in part inspired by the lessons learned from London's experience. This act laid the foundation for subsequent legislation that would continue to shape environmental policy in the US for decades. Globally, the smog acted as a catalyst for international cooperation on environmental issues. Scientists and policymakers began to collaborate across borders, sharing research and strategies to combat air pollution. This spirit of cooperation laid the groundwork for future international agreements, such as the Kyoto Protocol and the Paris Agreement, which seek to address global environmental challenges through collective action. The Great Smog also highlighted the importance of community resilience and the role of citizens in driving change. In the aftermath of the smog, grassroots movements emerged, advocating for cleaner air and more sustainable urban environments. These movements played a crucial role in raising public awareness and putting pressure on governments to implement meaningful reforms. They demonstrated the power of ordinary citizens to effect change and shape the policies that govern their lives. In reflecting on the Great Smog, it is essential to recognise the broader socio-economic context in which it occurred. Post-war Britain was a nation in transition, grappling with economic challenges and a rapidly changing social landscape. The smog exposed the inequalities inherent in industrial society, where the poorest and most vulnerable bore the brunt of environmental degradation. This realisation spurred a new understanding of environmental justice, emphasising the need for policies that protect all citizens regardless of their socio-economic status. Today, as we confront the challenges of climate change and environmental degradation, the lessons of the Great Smog remain as relevant as ever. It reminds us of the interconnectedness of our world and the shared responsibility we have to protect it. The smog is a symbol of the past, a stark reminder of what can happen when we neglect our environment, but it is also a beacon of hope, illustrating the potential for positive change when we come together with a shared purpose. The story of the Great Smog of London is not just a tale of disaster, but a narrative of transformation and progress. It is a story that continues to inspire, challenging us to reflect on our relationship with the natural world, and to strive for a future where progress and preservation go hand in hand. As we look to the future, let us carry forward the lessons of the past, working together to create a world where clean air and a healthy environment are the birthrights of all humanity.